Need a motion to approve the minutes for January and February?
Motion to approve minutes.
Second? Okay. Okay, training agenda.
We talked about trying to figure out what, if anything in particular, the board members wanted to learn in this year's training. Did anybody have any suggestions? If not, Richard, please send them to us. If not, Richard, Lori, and I will come up with some things, but wanted to know if there was anything in particular. I know some people have been doing the Citizens Academy. We encourage everybody to participate in the Citizens Academy. But we were, trying to find a place. We've always used 1199 as our particular place, so as soon as we discover a date, we need to figure out if we're going to have it at that location. Again, it was easily accessible. We parked right in the parking lot or in front of the building, and it worked out because it was right on the first floor, bathroom close, and all of that kind of stuff. So,
no, because of COVID, our offices are still.
Okay. So,
what about downstairs in that?
Right now, the tax program is there.
Still there? Yeah.
okay. So we are going to have to find another location that works. I know.
STA might let us use theirs if we ask
Okay.
nicely.
Okay, so let's think about that, but let's think about everybody's accommodations as it relates to that.
Well, it's pretty easy to get to.
Did we turn on the mics?
Syracuse Teachers Association. It's on Kirkpatrick Street. It's accessible. It's got parking. We can talk.
Citizens Academy is great. I'm like in the middle of that. Tells you how the city works, but it's the same thing. It's Wednesday nights, 5:30 to 8, different location throughout the city. But so far, it's been pretty interesting.
And then the police academy, I know Jose went to that one. The Citizens Academy is a little bit different, but we're talking about the, you call it the Citizens Academy.
Yeah, they call it
They still call it the Citizens Academy.
Yeah.
And so did you want to give your thoughts as it related to it?
Yes. For me, I had a great experience. It was very enlightening as far as like learning the procedures that the officers have to go through on a daily basis, but also just how there's different departments that take care of different specific things. So you get kind of to learn either some misconceptions that you might have from the police or encounters that they have with other individuals, and a brief history as well as far as like what policing has gone through as far as what it used to be and what it is now, and the challenges that they have to face, with the social media playing a part into that. So there's a lot to learn, and I would recommend anybody to try it.
Can I ask a question? Did they use their virtual reality sets with you guys?
No, we actually got to go through the some of the scenarios, and that was very, very, very cool. But also, just it leaves you with a different, impression as to what those encounters might actually feel like or look like in the moment.
I'd like to point out that the last Citizen Academy I went to, I got shot in the air by Peter in the room. I also had wounds from the bullets on my legs, and my baby was concerned that I'd been in war. From the scenarios, because again, it is important for us to understand the training that they currently have, where we would like to recommend training, but at first you got to have some sort of foundation. So again, I'd recommend anybody who can attend it to attend it when you can. We have done the virtual reality training, so we're going to see if we can bring that back. Again, that would be another an opportunity for you to see again scenarios in which you are able to, pick this way and pick that way as to how you would, choose, and just see some different reenactment, so I thought that that was good.
It was interesting, though, too, because at the presentation today to the recruits, one of the questions that they asked was, what kind of training do you guys have? Do you have the same training we do? And if not, how do you know, like, what is excessive force, and how do you know what those different demeanor things are? And you know, I said that we encourage everyone to go, that we've gone, that we do training, and, you know, we talked about it, but, you know, it was a very valid question from the police department.
Right, and that has been a valid question from the police department in terms of making sure we are aware, and that's why we've increased what we try to do in terms of our training, because it's important. All right.
And hearing availability, morning and evening. So we've got do we have to update that? Because we probably got a lot of hearings to schedule.
So what we want to try to do is decide whether or not the board would agree that on a particular day, say it's Tuesday, that on Tuesday we hold hearings at 10 o'clock in the morning or sometime in the morning shift, and on a particular day we hold hearings in the evening. And then for those complainants that are able to have hearings held in the morning, we schedule them in the morning. For those held in the evening, so that we can kind of try to figure out particular days, in hopes that it cuts down on the fact that we're calling around board members, we're sending emails constantly, and because of the makeup of the board, when you have to have a hearing that is a mayoral, a district, and an at-large, most of our retired members of our board can't be on the hearing at the same time. So we've got to figure out something, because we are behind in scheduling hearings. So we're asking whether or not this is a better avenue for us to take. But we really, you know, we'll talk about it some more in executive session, but we want to get to this point, because right now our system that we have isn't working. That's just, I mean, that's the best way I can put it. It's not working. There you go.
But you were good. And you brought that up in the common council. Like, they're going to have to change the act, right?
Right, but until that happens.
I did make some recommendations.
You know what I mean? It's part of some of the recommendations that we're making as it relates to legislation, but until it gets there, we still have to do the work.
Well, and I think that it's time that it gets there. So I think that should be our goal.
Right, but the only caveat to that is that we don't want to present things to them in piecemeal.
No, I understand that, and we can talk in executive session, but I went through the entire ordinance and marked off the things that we have talked about that need to be changed, and I wrote it up, so.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Let's review it as a board, make sure that everybody can agree with it, and then let's, make it happen. But until we get agreements by that, we as a board,
hopefully we'll have that by the end of this evening.
have to figure something out.
Put term out. Whatever you put in place has got to be effective for everyone, not just based on our decision.
It's real simple.
No, but it has to, but what I'm saying is hearings are part of the duties of the board members. So therefore, we have to do hearings. So the system that we're going around and we're asking for people's availability, it's not working, and hearings aren't getting scheduled. So what we're trying to say is, like, yes, we have to do it as it relates to everybody, but we've got to do something, and we got to stick to it, and we got to get these hearings done. That's it.
Okay, and we're going to have a new board member. I think she got approved, common council meeting, Bryn Lovejoy Grinnell. It's going to fill Cliff's seat, at-large nominee, former common councilor. And hopefully next meeting, right?
Yeah, she has to just get sworn in, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
What, she under at-large districts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
No.
She is
Yes.
under at large.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Wasn't she?
Okay.
She didn't get reelected.
Me. So, activity report. We had 5 new complaints to come into the office in the month of February. We have 14 complaints total for this year. We will be reviewing 4 cases in executive session. Currently, I'd like to point out that we are currently working diligently in the office as it relates to FOIL requests that we have. We have one FOIL request that's from 2012 to almost present, which is a lot of information gathering, a lot of information pulling. We have a request from the Attorney General's office to provide documents. We have a discovery demand as it relates to litigation. We are pretty swamped in the office as it relates to that and in our preparation for our 30th anniversary. The office staff is taking on the bulk of the preparation as it relates to that, hence Anthony, myself, and Michael. That's the reason why I guess a little bit of us trying to designate certain parts as it relates to hearings is important, because it's going to cut into our time as it relates to those requests, because then we have to set aside time for that while continuing to do the day-to-day operations. We can't, when we focus on one aspect, something else gets dropped. So,
Have we heard back from the attorney on any of the outstanding cases that we tried to schedule?
we have not, because we're in our conversation that we had at the Police Liaison Committee meeting. We talked about having the hearing dates as a particular day in the morning, and until we get those dates, I can't.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we have a new attorney that is going to be appearing at the time with individual officers. Unless the officer has a conflict, that attorney is going to be Mary DiAgostino. She currently usually acts as the outside counsel for the city, along with the officer with John Powers. I can't remember what law firm they're with, but also Melissa Swartz will be the attorney for officers that have a conflict with Mary DiAgostino. But that will be the new person that we are going to be working with. We had a police liaison committee meeting most recently. I would yield the floor to Lori and Richard to talk about their feelings as it relates to that.
There was a couple things they brought up. They kind of talked the whole circuit. One of them was talking about the Armory Square beats, about how that's the least popular beat among the police. They can barely find anyone to do it because it's Saturday night and everybody's drinking, and then things happen like the thing that just happened. And then it wasn't really talked about, but the new police contract, but that led to thing about, because the police are going to be working longer days, even though Chief Cecil said they have enough body cams for everybody, got into how the battery length is 5 hours, and so they're going to be on 10-hour shifts, so there's about having batteries for the police cam.
Or backup body cams.
Backup body cams, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, they had 99 people that were eligible to be hired, and 51 of them declined because they didn't want to move into the city. And it's in the new contract that after a period of time they have to move into the city. So that's becoming an issue, which also goes along with the issue that they've had for a very long time, which is it's much easier to be a sheriff or a trooper than it is to be a city cop, as far as the number of calls and those kinds of things, and so they do lose people to that as well. So their numbers are dwindling. Currently there's about 400, but they're not all on patrol. You know, that's everybody. They said they have a wellness officer now who
Full-time wellness officer.
is apparently being very helpful, and people seem to like that person and doing well. So
Did you say 9 people passed the civil service?
I don't know how,
9 people were eligible.
they were eligible.
In terms of able to be Syracuse Police Department officers. And when they reached out to them as to why they didn't continue, they advised that it was the residency requirement for them to live in the city for a period of time. So 51 of them stated that that was their reasoning for not accepting, going through with.
So they were offered the position? Or they just went to additional?
I'm not really sure where, where the line was drawn. I think that, one of the problems that has always been an issue as well is like you take the test today.
Yeah.
And you know how long it takes to get tests back. I mean, it takes months before they get the results. But there's also the psychological that people have to go through. There's physical things that people have to go through. So from the time you take the test until the time you would be offered a job could be a year or two. So obviously, most of the time people aren't finding another job unless their dream is to be a Syracuse cop. So I'm not sure at what point
It's before
that question was asked.
It's before they even have started the academy.
They're not willing.
They're
correct.
not willing to even consider Syracuse because of the residency requirement. Is
Yeah,
what
51 of
So
them.
they're declining on the canvas letter? Or
Yeah.
Because I know the sheriff's gets the first dibs on the canvas letter.
Yeah, so after they take the test and then, you're saying, hey, what was the reason why you didn't respond to the canvas letter? And they're advising that it was because of the residency
So they
requirement.
must be putting that on the canvas letter now.
Probably.
Yeah.
Would have to if they saw it.
I think that's a crazy excuse, the city residents. I mean, I think that they balk at living in the city employees being paid with city dollars. I think that's just...
That they don't want to live in the city for 5 years.
It just bugs me.
I think it's crazy that it was never a requirement to begin with.
Absolutely. I think it should be...
Like, you need to live where you police.
Well, I think that it's state
it's the
law
city.
that there are no residency requirements unless negotiated in their contracts for police, fire, and
But that's just
sanitation.
because it was meant for New York City because...
But it's a state law.
Right, I understand. But most of it had to do with the fact that when you live in New York City, most of the city workers that work there can't afford to live in the city based upon, like that would be saying, a sanitation worker who gets paid X amount of dollars has to live, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the reasoning. It called the Taylor, I think it's the Taylor law.
Well, they can
But-
say whatever they want as far as the reasoning goes, but if you look at salaries, police, fire, and sanitation routinely get paid more than other city employees. And the other city employees are the ones who are not required, who are required to live in the city. So that could be the reason that they did it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. But I agree with Joe. I mean, if you're going to patrol, you should patrol your... I mean, there's studies all over the place that, if police live in their jurisdictions, that it's better for everybody.
I don't think the police are selling it right.
No, I'm sure they're not.
I don't think
I know for a fact that there are, teachers don't have to live in the city, or teachers do and administrators don't, or whatever.
But that's how the Syracuse City School District teachers got out of being able to...
However, one of the things that I brought up at that meeting was the fact that there is a program in the city for teachers to get lower rates on mortgages and
We should have to...
things like that to live in the city, to buy property in the city.
Did you get those figures from?
I would rather not publicly say on the
figures
record.
of the declining on the campus.
From the police department.
At the police liaison meeting.
In our police liaison committee, we got it directly from them. It wasn't something...
Deputy chiefs present that, or?
Yeah.
Chiefs and deputies.
So it is the Taylor Law. It's the Public Employees Fair Employment Act, more commonly known as the Taylor Law, which defines the rights and limitations of unions for public employees in New York. That's what it is.
I know the Taylor Law.
No, I'm...
But, yeah, I mean, you were right.
I wasn't sure if I was right.
You were
so
right.
I wanted to make
You
sure.
were right.
I'm saying...
I just don't know that the reason behind what they say versus what the reality is true. I think they lie to you.
Just tell us how you really feel.
But they thought that the idea of providing some sort of other incentive was a valuable, you know what I mean, recommendation, and they would consider that. Right now, they do sign-on bonuses and things of that nature that they thought would help to attract lateral moves, you know, and the pay for that. They've tried to do it in that way. Certain other incentives and things of that nature, but it hasn't been increasing the number of officers when it comes to the
Well, and it's like they said, I think, you know, there's a lot of things that play into it, and, you know, certainly the number of calls and the types of calls that are very different. I mean, you know, if you can work at the Fayetteville Police Department and get paid the same or more as you're getting in the Syracuse City Police Department, why wouldn't you do that for a job that, you know, routinely is less active, I guess? I mean, if you're looking for the adrenaline rush of getting a lot of calls, the city's a great place to be.
I think it depends on why you wanted to be a police officer.
This is a major debate. We could talk about this one issue for
So there's
a
not a lot of
day.
job opportunities in the county.
So much to say about it.
There's not a lot of job opportunity out there in the county sector for that.
There is in the sheriff's department,
In the sheriff's areas.
and they get paid more than Syracuse City.
Yeah, they're taking people with higher scores off the civil service. The county, city's going all the way down to the side.
Did they mention anything about Fowler High School or whatever the name is?
Yeah.
How many?
Yeah, we
have
talked
they been
about that
recruited?
program, and they are working with that and also the cadet program to try to catch the students earlier. So they, you know what I mean, have been trying to do that as well and employ them and get them, you know, in the field. This is their way of trying to combat it. And we were asking all of these questions because, again, as Anthony is out in the community talking to the young people about, you know, their rights and policing and things of that nature, it's in hopes to, you know, if we could fix it at the front end in terms of how a child starts to perceive policing and starts to see it and things of that nature, maybe we can fix it for, you know what I mean, and change that, the adult mind state that they may in turn get to. So we were asking these questions so that we can be a help, because we can't keep promoting that we want a police department that's reflective of the city in which we live in if we aren't being proactive too and pushing the narrative and things of that nature and trying, you know, to say to the young people how, you know, our city would benefit for a diverse police department. And we know that talking to young people about what they see that policing are doing in their neighborhood after they've seen so much in their neighborhood could help, and it could relieve some of the mistrust and things of that nature, and hopefully, you know, they would want to be part of the solution. So that was the gist of us, the reason why we were asking so much in detail, so that we can kind of understand and know about the cadet program, when you can take the exam and things of that nature, and how the cadet program was working, because we all got to be helpers one to another. So.
Because they can't be hired right out of high school for the police department because they're too young. But they went to school for 4 years because they wanted to be a cop. You know, that's why they went there, or, you know. So that's why this cadet program will hire them right out of school. And what did they say, they're paying 18 an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, like $18 an hour, allow them
30
to
hours a week.
be CSOs, and it also, because you can't take you have to be 19 and a half at the time that you sit for the exam.
I think so.
So that then, you know, that kind of helps. But we want to be helping as much as we can.
Some pretty good opportunities out there for younger people.
Yeah.
I teach it, that's why you asked about what is Fowler.
No, because they said they had 99 of just, you know, applicants, and half of them turned it down. So it's Fowler feeding into the program, you know, like how are they doing?
Fowler's
Is it
feeding into
good?
the cadet program because these young people are not old enough, unless they're an older student, in order to take the exam right out of high school.
So essentially, it's kind of working. You know, this is like a new program. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but if it's feeding them into the cadet program, and then from there they can move forward into whichever area as a service employee. So
Yeah.
Do they know how many years it's going to take to?
So I guess my question is, does Fowler have a cadet program? Okay, and I was wondering if Fowler got to be a part of what you're saying.
They're trying to. They're improving it all the time to try to get a steady stream. Some of the ones from the last cadet program kind of fell off, so they're trying to figure out ways
You mean to drive up the numbers?
to
of police?
drive up the numbers, but
That's
they
a
have-
nationwide thing.
But that's like almost like,
That's-
you know, the same issue that they have all across the board. You know, and that's why I said it starts with those other conversations to get them there. You know, it starts with us talking to the middle school students and those people who are not choosing to be in the cadet program right now, but just changing the mindset. So I think we went over community outreach and public education, board development, we did that, government relations. We're not going to touch that right now. And then police relations, we just went over that part. Yeah. So.
The organization, is that, needs,
Nope, and then Michael wants to talk to you about some potential training.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. And also I appreciate the great attendance. This is fantastic. So I have a proposal for you. I would like to engage in some professional development. So I have this opportunity. It's through Certistafix, and that's an online e-learning company. I can provide more details for you if you would prefer. So this is something that is a data analysis program. It's called Data Collection, Processing, and Analysis. And so I believe that it will be very helpful for my position as the data analyst in our office. The program itself is somewhat broad. It's sort of foundational. So what it will do is add to the knowledge that I already have, but give something more of a wider basis. And now I say this because currently the industry standard for us is IA Pro. That is a data collection and analysis sort of group that is something very specific towards public accountability. But there are other things that are out there too. We've looked at, and Renette has spoken to you already about Civil. And Civil is a program that's comparable, but it also has something that's called a front-facing dashboard. Like a dashboard in your car, you just want to peek down, you can see your gas, you can see your speed, you can see your car's temperature. You want to be able to look and see something right in your face. And so the point of that being that I think if we're looking broad and we're looking into the future, we shouldn't really pigeonhole ourselves too much into IA Pro or Civil. And what this program does is give more of a better understanding of the R programming language and different things on data and machine learning that I believe could be very helpful, just so that we can perhaps even be able to evaluate or assess how useful things like IA Pro are going to be for our office and what kind of changes we should proceed to try and approach. So things like creating, again, outside of those two programs, things like Microsoft Power BI, which is something that might be available to us as a part of the Microsoft Office suite. So again, I think that this will be a really helpful program for me and then for the office. And additionally, it is a program that is kind of stop and go. So I can access it when I can, pause, re-engage, and go back, which is something that I think we really need at the moment, because as we're hiring our legal secretary, Renette and I are sharing a lot of the responsibilities of the everyday office management and that. So I will need something that will allow me that kind of leeway and flexibility. So I believe that this is a really good program for that. Now the cost, the reason why I'm here, the cost for that is $650, okay? And I believe that this is a reasonable thing. So there are very similar courses that are quote-unquote boot camp courses on data analysis and these types of things that often run $1,200 to $1,800. So this is, I believe, a very reasonable price. I believe that it gives me the flexibility that we need in our office, and I believe it will be very helpful in terms of our forward approach to our mission here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah.
This is an online program, or is this an in-person program?
This is online, yes. Some of the in-person ones were much higher in cost that I didn't find,
Is there a prerequisite, or
Sorry?
is there a prerequisite to take the course?
No. I mean, they hope that you have a general understanding of, like, you know, Microsoft end user and these types of things that I am, you know, competent in.
When could it start? When would you start?
It can start as soon as I am ready to access it. Yes. So as soon as we can get a payment in, it's like I said, it gives the flexibility that I can start, pause, and continue off and on. I am available. It gives me the availability for 6 months to access it. It is not going to be a 6-month program. I think it's something like 18 hours or so. So again, with the flexibility, something that I can accomplish in far less than 6 months.
Renette, what do you think?
I like the 6-month option.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at what we're in here doing.
I hear you.
I like the fact that it's available for 6 months. You know, in terms of, you know, looking at it, Michael and I had an in-depth conversation about, you know, looking at other oversight agencies and seeing what they utilize, but we talked about this as a baseline. And we talked about the fact that if we went to something that would be in person, he could potentially be out of the office for how many hours, you know what I mean? And what am I going to do then? So, you know, the cost effectiveness technically is actually pretty reasonable, considering what it would take if he had to travel somewhere, if we had to then pay for a hotel, if we found that there was a better one for that or something of that nature. So in the end game, I know that the collection that we need is going to be worth it. We know what programs we are trying to look at, but this is just generalized knowledge that would help provide him with a basis in looking at that stuff, because we talk about, you know, why do we need data? How are we collecting data? What's the back end of it? And things of that nature. And so,
Yeah, and I certainly intend to hopefully pursue more professional development opportunities in the future that are very specific towards the industry standards like IA Pro and those sorts of things. But like I said, I do believe that this wider foundational knowledge can help really be able to assess the utility of those and what needs to be done to help our office more.
So would it, in return, kind of like improve, like, just citizens' understanding of the data that we get to look at, or that you guys collect?
Yes. So the hope and the desire here is that you know, we can overcome some of the things that IA Pro doesn't do for us. So I'm going back to the dashboard thing that the Civil does offer, but we have so many other ways of doing that. So the intention is that we're able to analyze the data, come up with different trends that people maybe haven't noticed, and potentially in the future we might be able to say, hey, at this chronological moment we see a shift in how many hours officers are working or days off and on. Do we see any kind of pattern where, you know, that has had an impact, those types of things. But the point of the training would be that we can take this and try to make it available, like, visually and quickly for people every day, anybody, to just kind of look at and get an understanding of where we're coming from and the types of things that we're uncovering.
because what we're discovering, if it's not, I mean, it may be obvious if you spend a little time in the office, but we have so many sheets to get data from, and it's trying to figure out the best way to collect all the data that we need at one time and in one centralized place. Instead of having to type up whole reports, utilize a computer system in order to generate those reports, but you gotta know what you're doing with the data that you got. And so in a sense, this is providing Michael with the information and the tools as to how to make sure he's collecting the data in a way, and he's storing it in a way that will be user-friendly in the end. Where right now, the way that we're storing stuff, it's time-consuming to get everything.
Yes, we're re-entering things far too many times. There are so many redundancies, and honestly, the current system we have is horribly inefficient. So this will be a massive improvement, especially when we get started using IA Pro, which I don't mean to throw under the bus. It's a fantastic program.
Just, as you all know, we got IA Pro somewhere around 2013, 2015, somewhere around in there, and they have now switched to a web-based program. in which the web-based program, we just worked with IT to finalize the migration of that. And so look how long that it's taking for that. And we still have to, put that together. So everything that we're working together is to get our office to where it needs to be while not overloading every aspect of everything, which is the reason why we need to figure out the best way to collect all of our data into one place efficiently. And that Michael will then be able to look at the data and tell us what stuff is.
Yeah, and then what I wanted to add is, even in the best case scenario, we're able to enter all of our data, and generate these reports, and it spits out exactly what we need. But you need to make sense of it, and you need to make it something that other people can understand too. So again, that's part of what we need to do with the data here, is accessibility. We want to be accountable to the citizens ourselves. So we want to make sure that we have this publicly, and I would really love to have like a dashboard right on our main website that people can come and see a number of complaints maybe, or anything, generally obviously protecting people's privacy.
Just wanted to ask if you could come on a semi-regular basis and just update us on the details of the program, what's working, what's not working, what you would like to see in the program, or how it's positively affecting the office. And that way, for your professional development, we can take that into consideration. You come to us for another program, we know, okay, this is going to cover the negatives that he's been talking about. So I just want to throw, no question, just a comment.
Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate that, and I'd be happy to write up, monthly reports or whatever. Again, I don't anticipate it taking more than 2 or 3 months, depending on how busy the office is. But I'd be happy to come in to the meetings as I do and share what I think is working, what I've learned, and what I think is really something for the board to know too. And I very much appreciate that. I mean, if you are going to fund my professional development, you want to see growth, and so I'll be accountable for that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Question, where does this come out of? What part of the budget does this come from?
Training?
So it would typically come out of training. And if you look at your sheet, we do have some funds available as it relates to additional funds, because we have not been able to fill positions in a timely manner. So it provides us with a surplus technically at this point, but that surplus would be something that we have until the end of this fiscal year. But then moving forward, we'd have to look at making sure we put some sort of development.
And the fiscal year ends in the end of June.
Yes.
Right.
So we have funds available to do that.
Well, plus we can move money around if we have to, right?
Right.
Because there's
But
a
I'm
lot
trying to
left
make
in
sure that
training.
yes.
Travel, there's a lot left.
Yes.
too,
So we can always move money around in the budget, but I like to make sure that we adequately depict what our needs are.
For sure.
So that if we have it in training, it goes to training, because if not, you never get a true picture of what is the
Correct.
training budget. But yes, we have that ability based on. So we would need to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we take $650 out of our training budget and put it towards the training that Michael just laid out for us with data analysis.
And I second the motion.
Second, that's it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Any?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your trust in me.
All right, that's all the office has at this time. Community organizations?
Oh, do you want to
Any
be-
public comment?
Good.
We'd entertain a motion to adjourn for executive session.
So moved.
All right, rock and roll.